Lesson 16, I will solve two-step word problems using the standard subtraction algorithm. So in your Zern lesson, you figured out what to do whenever you were given a two-step word problem, a word problem that had a missing piece, but instead of your tape diagram having two parts, it had three parts. So that turned our regular word problem into a two-step word problem. So let's practice a few of those together. All right, so make sure that you have lesson 16 problem set and that you go ahead and write your name. And let's read the directions. Estimate first, then solve each problem. Model the problem with a tape diagram. Explain if your answer is reasonable. Okay, so we have an application problem here, and we are going to be using that RDWW process. We're going to read. We're going to draw. They've already told us that they want us to draw a tape diagram. We're going to write a number sentence and we're going to write a word sentence. So first let's read. On Monday, a farmer sowed 25,196 pounds of potatoes. On Tuesday, he sowed 18,023 pounds. On Wednesday, he sowed some more potatoes. In all, he sowed 62,409 potatoes. So we're going to start with our tape diagram, and we're going to think about what do we know and what do we not know. All right, so here is our tape diagram. We only have to draw this once for this problem. And do we know a total here? What do we know? It says here, in all, he sowed 62,409 pounds of potatoes. That's going to be our total. So we're going to label 62,409. Then it says that he sowed some potatoes on Monday. So I'm going to label this M for Monday. Then it said he sowed some potatoes on Tuesday. So I'm going to label this T for Tuesday. And then he sowed some on Wednesday. So notice my tape diagram has three parts because I've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we know he sowed 25,196 pounds on Monday. He sowed 18,023 pounds on Tuesday, but then it says on Wednesday he sowed some more. So we don't know how much this is. I'm going to go ahead and label this C. I could label this any letter, it doesn't matter. Any letter here or any variable here just means that I don't know this part. Now it says, about how many pounds of potatoes did the farmer sell on Wednesday? Estimate by rounding each value to the nearest thousand, then compute. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to estimate. So I'm trying to find C. So before I can find C, I need to figure out what these two are together. But because I'm estimating, I'm going to go ahead and estimate all of these numbers. It says to the nearest thousand. So I've got 62,409. How many thousands are in this number? 62,000, right? I'm going to go ahead and draw a vertical number line. You don't have to draw this vertical number line, but I do want you to watch it with me because I want you to understand that this is what you should be thinking in your head. And until you can see this in your head, you need to draw it. So there are 62,000 thousands. One more thousand would be 63, and this is how you write 63,000. My halfway point would be 62,500. So now I have to look at my number and I have to say to myself, is this more or less than halfway? So when I look over here at the halfway point, the thousands are the same, but I have a 5 in the hundreds. This is less than 500. So that tells me that this is going to be closer to 62,000. Okay? So I'm going to do the same thing for Monday's and Tuesday's number. So it says that we have 25 thousands. So I'm going to go ahead and label this 25,000. What's one more than 25? 26. So I've got 26,000. Halfway is 25,500. So now I'm looking at my actual answer. Is this more or less than halfway? Well, they both have 25,000, but this has a 1 in the hundreds place, and halfway has a 5. So that tells me that 25,196 is about 25,000. Make sure that you are writing this on your paper and you are writing this. You don't have to write the vertical number line, but I do want you to write the estimate on your paper. All right, we're going to estimate one more. So I have 18 thousands and 18,023. What's one more than 18? Well, 19. What's halfway between 18 and 19,000? 18,500. So I look at 18,000 and I'm trying to figure out if this is more or less than 18,500. Well, when I look in the hundreds place, the zero tells me that this is less than halfway. So that means that 18,023 is about 18,000. Okay, so now I've made all my estimates. Now I'm ready to find an about answer. Okay, so first, I need to figure out what these two are together. So that means I'm going to add 25,000 and 18,000. So I think the easiest way to do this would just be to do a number sentence. So I've got 25,000 plus 18,000. So that gives me 43,000. Make sure that you are writing this number sentence. So I know that together on Monday and Tuesday, this is about 43,000. So if I want to find this missing part, I know that this whole part is 43,000, and I know 43,000 plus whatever C is going to equal 62,000. That tells me that in order to find C, what do I have to do with 62,000 and 42,000? I need to subtract, right? So I'm going to subtract here. I can subtract everywhere until I get to the thousands, and then I'm going to have to decompose this 10,000, and that makes 5 10,000s and 12,000s. Now I'm ready to subtract. So I have 0, 0, 0, 9, and 1. So what this means is that on Wednesday, the farmer sold about 19,000 pounds of potatoes. Okay, so that's my estimate there. Okay, now I'm going to go into a split screen mode here so that I can see B and A at the same time. You've got the luxury of seeing your whole paper at the same time. Because now it says find the precise number of pounds. What do you think precise number means? Well, that means find the exact answer or the actual answer. So we're going to use the same process, except instead of using our estimated numbers, we are going to use the actual numbers. So I'm going to use the same process. I'm still going to add together the number of pounds he sold Monday and Tuesday, but instead of using my estimates, I'm going to use the actual answers. So I'm going to take 25,196 and I'm going to add that to 18,023 and I'm going to find that total. Okay? If you feel pretty confident in knowing how to finish this, go ahead and finish it for yourself. Pause the video and come back and we'll check together. Okay, so you can see that I went ahead and found the sum, and I found the sum to be 43,219, pretty close to our estimate. And now I'm going to find the exact answer of C. So I have to find the total, again, which was 62,409, and now I'm going to subtract the total of Monday and Tuesday, which is 43,219. Go ahead and do that if you haven't done that already, and then we'll check our differences. Okay, so you can see here that I went ahead and subtracted. I did have to do a little bit of decomposing to be able to subtract, but my actual answer was 19,190. So now I'm going to write my word sentence. Now notice I did not redraw again because I already drew. It's the same tape diagram, but I am going to go ahead and write a sentence. So I'm going to say the precise number of potatoes sold on Wednesday, and I'm going to abbreviate Wednesday, was 19,190. This should be precise number of pounds because this isn't the number of potatoes, it's number of pounds. So I'm going to go back up here and write pounds, okay? The precise number of pounds of potatoes sold, because there's a big difference between number of potatoes and pounds of potatoes. Okay, so C says, is your precise answer reasonable? So how can I tell if this answer is reasonable? Well, it tells me, compare your estimate from A. My estimate from A was 19,000 to your answer from B, which was 19,190. What do you notice about these two numbers? I'm going to go ahead and go back to full screen. What do you notice about these two numbers? Well, they're really close, right? So what that means is if your estimate is close to your actual answer, that means that your answer is reasonable. So I'm going to say yes, my answer is reasonable because 19,000 is really close to 19,190. Now notice this says, is your answer reasonable? It doesn't say, is your answer right? I still could have made a silly subtraction mistake. Like perhaps maybe I made a mistake and didn't make this a 0. I made that common fourth grade mistake and changed it to a 9, and I had 19,180. But my answer would still be reasonable. It wouldn't be accurate, but it would still be close. So that's why this says, is your answer reasonable, not is your answer right. It just wants to know if your estimate is close to the answer that you got, then that means that this answer is at least very close to the right answer. You still could have made a silly subtraction or addition mistake, but if you ended up with something like 519,000, then you'd be like, oh, hold on, I must have really done something wrong, okay? All right, so let's take a look at problem number 2. A gas station had 2 pumps. Pump A dispensed 241,752 gallons. Pump B dispensed 113,916 more gallons than Pump A. All right, so we just read. Now we're going to draw, and then we're going to write and write again. All right, so it told us at the beginning that it wanted us to draw a tape diagram, so that's what we're going to use here today. All right, so let's take a look at our facts. So a gas station has 2 pumps. It has a pump A and it has a pump B. And we know that pump B dispenses more than pump A. Okay, so how many gallons did both pumps dispense? So we know that pump A, and then we have a pump B. And notice I made B a little bit bigger than A because B pumps more. Okay, we know that pump A has 241,752 gallons. Now, if I come over here and I just put 113,916 for pump B, that wouldn't be correct. Because first of all, this number is not more than this number. So 113,000 cannot be how much pump B dispenses. It dispenses this much more than pump A. So what that means is that pump B not only pumps the 241,752 gallons, it also pumps an additional 113,916 gallons. So let's think about that again. Pump A dispenses this all by itself. Well, pump B dispenses as much as pump A and this much more. So pump B would be this together. So the question wants to know about how many gallons did both pumps dispense. So this, my total this time, is going to be what I'm trying to find. And I'm going to call the total C since I've already got a pump A and a pump B. I could have called it P for pump. I could have called it anything. So now, let's take a look at what we have here. How do you think we're going to solve for C? We know all the parts. We just don't know the total. So what are we going to do to all the parts? We're going to add them together, right? Now this says about how many gallons. So it says estimate by rounding each value to the nearest 100,000. So we're going to round each of these numbers to the nearest 100,000. The great thing is look, I've got the same number twice. So I don't have to estimate this number twice. I can estimate it once and then I'll have it for both times. So because we're rounding to the nearest 100,000, I am going to draw a vertical number line here. You don't have to draw it, but I do want you to look at it with me. So we're rounding to the nearest 100,000. How many 100,000s are in this number? 2, right? 200,000s. What's one more than 2? 3. So we have 300,000. What's halfway between 200 and 300? 250. So this would be 250,000. So let's take a look at our number. Is this more or less than the halfway mark? Well, the 100,000s are the same. I'm going to look to the 10,000s place. Well, this has a 4 and this has a 5. So that tells me that it's closer to the bottom number, which is 200,000. So 241,000 rounds to 200,000, and then I'm going to do it again because I have that number again. I don't have to redraw my number line. I know that this rounds to 200,000. And now I'm going to estimate 113,000. Again, don't draw this vertical number line. I just want you to watch. We're trying to get to a place to where we can do this in our head. How many 100,000s are there? 1, right? So we have 100,000. What's one more than 100,000? 200,000. And my halfway point would be 150,000. So would 113,000 be more or less than halfway? Well, because of this 1 in the 10,000s place and the 5 in the 10,000s place here, it tells me it's less than halfway. So that means that 113,916 is about 100,000. Okay, so now I'm going to erase my number line so that I have room to write my number sentence. Okay, so I'm trying to find the total here. So to find the total, what do I do with these three estimates? I'm going to add them together, right? I'm going to go ahead and write a number sentence. I'm going to write it horizontally because I know I can do this in my head. It's mostly zeros. So I've got 200,000. This is how much pump A pumps, and then I'm going to do pump B. Pump B would be the 200,000 plus the 100,000. So 200,000 plus 200,000 is 400,000, plus another 100 would be 500,000. All right, that's my number sentence. Now I'm going to answer it with a sentence. Both pumps, oops, that says bumps. Both pumps dispense about 500,000 gallons. So this is our estimate. Okay, so we know that when we get ready to do the exact or the precise answer, it should be close to 500,000. Okay, so this time we're going to find the exact answer. So I'm going to turn this into a two-step problem. It was easy for me to add all three of these numbers together when I was estimating because I had lots of zeros. This time I'm going to find the value of pump B, or how many gallons pump B pumped by itself, and then I'm going to add that to pump A, okay? So I'm going to kind of do it like this, pump A plus pump B. So let's start by finding out exactly how many gallons pump B can dispense. Okay, so we've got 241,752, and I'm going to add that to 113,916. I want you to add this all by yourself, and then let's come back and check your sum. Okay, so hopefully you got 355,668. Now I'm going to take this, which is pump B, and I'm going to add it to pump A. So pump A, again, can dispense 241,752 gallons. Pump B can dispense 355,668 gallons. So go ahead and find your sum here, and then let's come back and check together. Okay, so hopefully you got 597,420 gallons. All right, so now we're ready to write our sentence. Both pumps can dispense exactly 597,420 gallons. Okay, now we're ready to decide if this is an reasonable answer. Okay, so we're going to do that by looking at our estimate, which was 500,000, and then we're going to look at our estimate, which is 597,000. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, they both say 500,000. Why do you think there's such a big difference between these two numbers? I mean, it's not a huge difference, but there is a little bit of a difference because in the last problem, there wasn't as much of a difference. But if you'll remember, in problem number 1, what did we round to? We round it to the nearest thousand. That's going to make a more accurate answer. This time we round it to the nearest 100,000 because we didn't really need a super accurate estimate. We just wanted to know if this answer is reasonable. So even though they're not as close as our last estimate, our answer is still reasonable considering that we round it to the nearest 100,000. So we're going to say, yes, my answer is reasonable because 597,420 is close to 500,000. And notice when I say close, it's reasonably close, okay? It's not super close. Now, I know that your problem set still has a problem 3, it still has a problem 4, and it still has a problem 5. But we're going to go ahead and stop here. If you would like to try these 3 problems by yourself and you want me to check them, I'll be more than glad to. Just go ahead and complete them and bring them to me, or just put them in the wire basket with a little note, and I'll be glad to check them for you and let you know how you did.